This is a story of power, sacrifice, and the moment when steel and flesh together carved their names into history. Imagine this: in the vast emptiness of the ocean, a lone American warship sails forward, and in front of it rises the shadow of an entire Japanese fleet. The thunder of guns echoes across the horizon, enemy planes scream in the sky, and the sea itself seems to roar in anticipation of the clash. The battle that was about to begin had no room for victory, no chance for survival, yet the ship refused to turn away. This is the story of the USS Dressler, the destroyer that faced the impossible. The USS Dressler was not a massive battleship with towering guns, nor a heavily armored carrier that launched planes by the dozens. It was a destroyer, fast, agile, built for escorting larger vessels, chasing submarines, and striking in quick bursts of violence before retreating. It was a hunter in the shadows of the ocean, but on that fateful day, it was not in the shadows. It was exposed, alone, with no fleet to shield it and no reinforcements in sight. Its mission had been routine patrol, scanning the seas for signs of enemy movement. But what it found instead was death staring straight into its eyes. On the radar, the picture became clear: multiple contacts, more than a dozen large ships, their formations tight, their signals strong. The crew could scarcely believe it: a full Japanese fleet. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and an air wing overhead. Outnumbered 100 to 1, the USS Dressler had stumbled into the jaws of the lion. For a moment, silence filled the bridge. The men looked to their captain, waiting for the order: retreat or fight. And in that silence, a choice was made. The captain's voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "We hold our ground. This ship does not turn its back." A murmur ran through the crew, fear mixing with a strange surge of pride. They knew what this meant. To stand was to sacrifice. To fight was to die. Yet in their hearts, they also knew that sometimes, survival is not the measure of victory. Sometimes it is the courage to resist, to defy the impossible, that lives forever. The enemy had already spotted them. Planes peeled off from carriers, engines screaming as they descended toward the lone destroyer. The sea trembled as heavy shells began to thunder from the distant horizon. The USS Dressler's guns came alive, anti-aircraft fire slicing the sky, every sailor at his station, sweat mixing with salt spray as they prepared to meet the oncoming storm. It began with the first dive bombers. Black silhouettes against the blazing sun, diving at impossible angles, their bombs falling like spears of fire. The ship shook as near misses sent geysers of water crashing over its decks. But the gunners roared back, their traces stitching the sky, and one plane erupted in flames, spiraling into the sea. Cheers erupted for a moment, but another bomb crashed against the deck, shattering metal, spraying shrapnel, sending men tumbling. The battle had begun, and the ocean was about to witness defiance carved in fire. The USS Dressler rocked violently as shells tore through the air, splashing dangerously close. Fires broke out across the deck, smoke filling the bridge, and alarms screamed as sailors fought to keep the ship operational. But despite the chaos, the crew never wavered. Every gunner, every helmsman, every sailor knew the stakes. This was not just a battle for survival, but a moment that would define them forever. The Japanese fleet pressed harder. Cruisers unleashed barrages of shells, their paths lighting up the waves with explosions, turning the ocean into a storm of fire and water. Dive bombers returned, relentless, trying to find a weak spot in the destroyer's armor. But the USS Dressler danced across the waves, dodging, weaving, every movement precise, like a predator in the hunt. Below deck, damage control teams worked feverishly. Water poured in through torn hull plates, engines sputtered, and electrical systems failed. Men carried buckets, patched holes, and rerouted power, all while the world above them seemed to crumble. Every second counted. Every second meant life or death. Above deck, the captain barked orders, his eyes scanning the horizon, calculating risk, predicting the enemy's next move. He knew reinforcements might never arrive, that the destroyer might sink that very day. Yet he fought with a determination that seemed larger than life. "Hold steady. Fire at will. We are not beaten yet." The crew responded like a single organism, each man moving in perfect coordination. Traces arced through the sky, hitting planes mid-dive, while gunners' shells shredded the wooden decks of enemy destroyers. Miraculously, despite being outnumbered, the USS Dressler inflicted serious damage, sending smoke and fire onto enemy vessels. The impossible was unfolding before their eyes: a single destroyer, dancing in defiance, striking fear into an entire fleet. Hours passed like minutes, the battle stretching into an unrelenting test of endurance. Exhaustion gnawed at the sailors, but none faltered. They saw comrades fall, but they pushed forward, driven by something stronger than fear, honor, courage, and a duty that refused to be denied. Then came the final wave. Heavier shells rained down, and a massive explosion rocked the destroyer. Men were thrown from their stations, fires roared across the deck, and it seemed the ship might finally succumb. But in that moment of utter chaos, the USS Dressler found its rhythm. Maneuvering with unbelievable precision, it dodged the largest shells, returned fire with deadly accuracy, and forced the Japanese to break formation. By sunset, the horizon was littered with smoke, fire, and the remnants of battle. The Japanese fleet, stunned and battered, had begun to retreat. Against all odds, the lone destroyer had survived. The USS Dressler, battered but unbroken, had faced impossible odds and emerged as a legend. On the deck, sailors slumped with exhaustion, their uniforms torn and blackened with soot, yet their faces glowed with pride. The captain looked out over the ocean, silent for a moment, then spoke softly. "We may be one ship, but today, we proved courage can outshine numbers." The story of the USS Dressler lives on, a testament to bravery, to determination, and to the power of refusing to surrender even when the world seems against you. It is a tale of a single ship that stared down a fleet, a story whispered in naval history and remembered wherever courage is honored. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, the lone destroyer sailed on, carrying with it the spirit of every sailor who dared to face the impossible, and lived to tell the tale.